Hi everybody. It is Brent Simpson, Leon Noble coming to you live from Investing Education Academy. Today, Leon and I have been talking. We decided to do a series dedicated to the kids. So for the next few months, you're going to notice we're going to be doing a lot of videos that are geared towards helping your children become wealthy later on in life. If you have questions, this is a great time to send us questions. If you've been waiting for this content, like, you know what, I do want to do something or multiple things to make sure my kids have a leg up in this world. This is going to be a series you want to listen to. We're going to be talking about stock market, real estate, investment accounts, estate planning. So it's going to be we might even have a few guests pop in. Maybe not. We'll see. But the objective that we're really trying to put in front of everybody is make sure you're doing something today to take care of your kids' future, which will be hopefully years from now when they have financial needs that may exceed what you were thinking they might need today. So there may be some questions. Please put into the comments. You can also email Leon and I. You can go to IEAnow.com, hit the contact button, get in contact with us. You can go to Investing Education Academy on Facebook, search the group. The group will pop up. You can put questions in there. And again, we want your engagement. This is really important information because right now it's a lot of things up in the air. Will there be Social Security? What will 401ks look like in the future? And, if you don't have a plan, I think the saying goes, people do not plan to fail, they fail to plan. So I know you can't see me right now. It's because I'm going to be doing a screen share. And the most important thing is going to be the content. You can't see Leon's wonderful face. Leon, is there anything that I missed before we dive in?
No, it's like you said that this is important because we're all about the stock market here. It's our number one thing. But ultimately, we do a lot of this for our family, friends, but mainly family, right? And it's like if we can set our young people up, kids, grandkids, cousins, nephews, whatever, for a better future, financially, why not? Because it only would benefit us in the here and now, and it'll benefit them in the future. So we definitely want to start doing things where we can show how we as adults can help the kids and the youth in our lives with their financial situations
All
in the
right, so
future.
we're going to do a screen share right now. And all right. So if you are looking, we're using Mass Mutual just for example's sake. It could be really any company that we look at, and the numbers, they will change. They will change. But we chose Mass Mutual because it's what's called a mutual company, meaning it's not a stock-based company, so there are no shareholders. Why does that matter if it's a mutual company versus a stock-based company? Mutual companies don't have shareholders that they have to pay. So that layer of money going out doesn't exist. How does that affect your policies? Why are we talking about life insurance today? Before I get into that, it affects your policy because without that layer of stockholders that they have to pay, more money goes towards your dividend as an insurance holder. So it's not always that way, but in general, if you can eliminate more people that need to be paid, of course, whoever's left to get paid normally makes more money. It's kind of common sense. But why do we choose to show you all life insurance today? Because life insurance is not tied to the stock market. I know. We're stock guys. So why are we showing something that's not stock? Because life insurance has some amazing guarantees that people just don't know about. And, in certain areas of our community, it's considered like morbid to think about life insurance for a newborn baby or a 6-year old or 10-year old or 13-year old. Why am I planning for them to die? That's what some people, not all, some people understand that life insurance can be an amazing estate planning tool, but some people don't. So if you're one of those people who right now are thinking, why are they showing us life insurance? You want to watch this entire video. You want to listen to this entire podcast. So I know some of you all might be listening to us right now. We have up on the screen a life insurance policy, and we're going to run through this particular life insurance policy, which is just as a hypothetical of what's possible with life insurance. The design of this podcast is to give you ideas of what else you could be doing with your money. So we're jumping into an example of a 6-year-old child whose parents are interested in getting them life insurance. In this example, the life insurance will be what's called a whole pay policy. And what that means is you have two types of life insurance. You have term life insurance and you have whole life insurance. Those are the only types of life insurance there are. Now, they have a lot of different names. We can run through, some people might call it mortgage insurance. Some people might call it, death insurance. Some people may refer to it as IUL, Index Universal Life Insurance Policy. Some people might call it a VUL, Variable Universal Life Insurance Policy. And there's a million names in between. Limited pay, high early cash value. We can go through the whole gambit, but that would just waste time. For purposes of this podcast, understand there are only two types of life insurance policies: term and whole life. So what are they? Term means that you're insured for a specific term. And that's why some people call it mortgage insurance. They match the policy to how long you'll have a mortgage, which means it's a term policy that in most cases will go 30 or 15 years. So for 30 or 15 years, you're covered in case you die with an amount that's normally equal to whatever the mortgage is that you took out for your home, which is why they give this term policy the name mortgage insurance. Okay, so we realize it's just a term policy with a really fancy name. Then you have what's called whole life insurance. Why is whole life insurance called whole life insurance, and how is it different from term? Whole life insurance is designed to cover you for, drum roll, your whole life. And that is why it's called whole life insurance, like in this particular policy. Now, you might get a very popular thing right now is IULs, Index Universal Life Insurance. In the early 2000s, it was VULs, Variable Universal Life Insurance. And what made those exciting is just the fact that people were marketing it differently. They were marketing it with what is called living benefits. This is the thing that's a little tricky. Almost all life insurance have some version of living benefit. And what does that mean? That means that you don't benefit only if somebody dies. Whereas term insurance, on the other hand, the only benefit comes about if somebody actually dies, which is why I think it's under 5% of term policies ever will pay somebody any money, because the likelihood of you dying is really low. You're more likely, most people, I would say 40, 50 and under, are more likely to become disabled than they are to die. So in that case, term policies, when you start matching it to mortgages, things of that nature, once people get close to their mortgage being paid off, what's the first thing they do? Is they cancel the insurance. If a person buys term insurance because it's super cheap, and normally term insurance policies are about 50% or more cheaper than whole life insurance policies. And you might be wondering, well, why is that? Because the reality is they make them cheaper simply because they know more than likely they'll never have to pay anybody anything. So they kind of don't lose when they make them cheaper. And that is the reason they make them cheaper. All right, now let's take a look. In this particular policy, this is a whole life insurance policy that is going for 15 years. If you're listening to this podcast, it's a whole life insurance policy that says 15 pay. That means that you're paying it for 15 years and then you're no longer putting money into it. Why is that relevant? It is relevant.
Right.
Yes.
Real quick. Could you go back to the full screen? It's easier, just to make it bigger. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I'm actually going to switch it this way, Lee.
Okay.
And I know it's smaller, but it's a reason for it.
Okay.
So when I dive into it, I'm going to make it bigger again.
All right.
So when you all are looking at this whole life insurance policy, at the top, it says whole life 15 pay. You're only paying for 15 years. but you're covered your whole life. That matters for certain families if you're trying to, maybe have the insurance paid off before a newborn baby reaches college, or you're trying to have it paid off before you hit retirement. Essentially, you may have a reason to not want to pay this your whole life, although you can, and there are benefits to having whole life insurance that you pay your whole life. But for this example, we're going to use a limited pay, and we're going to look at a 6-year-old boy in this situation. Girls, for those of you all watching, tend to be cheaper than boys when it comes to life insurance. It's moderate, but girls in general are cheaper when it comes to life insurance. Now let's dive in. Okay, you'll notice in this particular example, the premium every year is $4,239. That works out to be, roughly $353 per month. But if you pay it annually, it's a little bit of a discount. So 15 years out, and I'm just going to jump to the part that's exciting. You've been paying this policy for 15 years, and you realize, like, oh my gosh, I have spent, you can see it right here. This is how much outlay you've put into the policy at this period of time. Is what a guaranteed cash value in it. You spent roughly, let's see, let me do the math. I'm going to pull up a calculator just so you can see the numbers. All right. Leon, just let me know. Can you see the calculator on the screen?
No.
Okay. Let me see if I can do, well, I can't do it with, and you see the calculator. So I'm just going to do the math. So $4,239. You know what? Let me try one thing. Okay. Leon, can you see the calculator now?
Yeah, you see it now.
Okay, cool. And it's fun to do the math. So you have $4,239. That number's reflected right here. You've been paying it for 15 years. The number's reflected right there. So let's multiply this times 15. That means you've put $63,585 into this particular life insurance policy. All right, now you're thinking, why am I spending $63,000 on a life insurance policy? Well, if something were to happen to your child, you do want to have some coverage. But more importantly, this starts to feel and emulate a piggy bank. You'll notice if you look here, the amount of money in this particular account is $57,000 guaranteed. That means it's guaranteed. This is the guarantee. That column says you'll have $57,000 guaranteed to be in this account. Okay, that's cool, but that's still not $63,000. Now, if you look here, total cash end of the year, you'll notice that you have $77,687. Okay, it's starting to get a little sexy now, because with that number, what's the thing that stands out? It's more than $63,000. But why is it different than the guarantee column? What happens here to make this different than the total cash value column? It's what's called a dividend payout. Each year when you have whole life insurance, you get paid out a dividend. And this is why I like Mass Mutual in particular, but a lot of mutual companies, Northwestern, there's some really great companies out there. When you look at the dividend payout, it actually starts to work kind of like the dividend you would see in a stock. Now you're starting to see the reason why Leon and I are bringing this up similar, even though we're stock guys, because the dividend is paying out. Dividend now has you at $77,000, and I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to go with the full number. So you pay roughly $63,000, you have about $77,000. And let's say they don't hit the dividend, because we all know not all companies always hit the dividends. Mass Mutual in like 126 years has missed their dividend maybe 2-3 times. So it's a high probability you're actually going to land at this number at the end of that 15-year period.
And
so
Brett, real quick, when you say payout, you mean Mass Mutual pays it into this policy? It doesn't pay you out?
Yes. it pays into the policy a dividend.
Right. Okay.
And it keeps accumulating in your cash account inside of your whole life insurance policy. And this is also a place where, some agents come in and they start talking about living benefits and, what you can do with your insurance policy. And they're not wrong. But truthfully, you really do want to look at life insurance more like a piggy bank that you would have to, break the piggy bank to get to, not just a checking account that you go into every so often. Because as you pull money out, of course, the dividend is based on the amount of cash you have in the policy. So as you start pulling money out, it will affect how much of a dividend you get going forward. So you want to leave the money in forever if you can, but as long as possible in almost every situation. But it's cool that it's there, because if you ran into really hard times, and let's say you called the insurance company and said, you know what, I don't like this policy anymore, I want to get rid of it, they're going to cut you a check for $77,000. You've only put $63,000 in, so you're up. Now, let's talk about the life of our children. Let's say they get to that point where, and I'm just going to jump to 65 because I think that's in the US now, they're pushing retirement age into the 70s. So I'm going to stop at 65. So at age 65, your child still has this account. And again, remember, total cash value with the dividend. And we're talking about age 65. And notice these zeros. After year 15, the column where you're paying becomes 0. Immediately in year 16, 0. That means you are no longer putting any more money into this account. And up until that place, you put $63,000 in. Let's remember that number. Everybody remember this number, 63,000. So now we're going up to age total cash value column. We're going to age 65, and that's the age where most people will retire. Yes, that number is correct. For those of you all listening, the policy now has $900,000 in it.
Wait, are you on the 59? Oh, 65. Okay, sorry. On the second column on the left.
Oh, you know what? I just realized. So this is age 65. That's correct.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool.
So at age 65, your child would then have $900,000 in the account. And that's normal retirement age right now. Again, it's been pushed up in the US well into the 70s. But let's assume it's 65. You put $63,000 into this account. This account now is yielding or has in it $900,000. That is hugely significant, because one thing we've noticed as you get older is sometimes our investment accounts, our 401ks, our 403bs, our 457 plans, Keogh plans, profit sharing, whatever it might be, they don't always have as much money as we hope. We changed jobs once or twice. We decided to liquidate to pay for a house or a wedding, or medical bills came up. So imagine if your children went through life knowing they're going to almost essentially be a millionaire by the time they hit 65, simply through their life insurance policy. No, and we're not even talking about the other parts that we're going to visit in this platform during this series with Investing Education Academy. And to look at that a different way, if they were to, not need this, and they were, they died, they have kids, let's say they make it to 85 and they have kids, the payout to their kids, which would be your grandkids, is close to $3 million. You put 63,000 into this account. They're now looking at having $3 million passed on to that next generation, your grandkids. And of course, the goal would be they take $1 million and go buy a policy now, where this was just a $250,000 policy initially. It only had $250,000 worth of coverage if they were to die. It's now worth $3 million. And with that, they at age 85, which we have parents who are in their 80s. Imagine if your children are saying, okay, your grandkids are looking like, mom maybe had an issue, dad had an issue, I don't know how we're going to pay for it. They can go into their parents' life insurance policy and start to pull out money to take care of their medical bills if they needed to. And you're talking about having $2.5 million in that account at this point. $2.5 million. That's huge. That changes the stress levels. It changes how they relate to money. It even changes the type of job they get, because going back to this, if your kids were 65, they're still sitting on close to $1 million. And that $1 million gives them the ability to decide, am I working somewhere because I have to, or am I working somewhere because I love it and I don't have to worry about retirement? Because my parents thought about that when I was 6 years old.
Hey, real quick, just put it in perspective. So at 65 with that $900,000, that's a return from the amount of money you put in until you stop paying. That 63,000 up to 900,000 is a 1,328% return in 45 years, which in turn per year, that's over the life of that 45 years. But per year over that 45 years, that's almost 30% return per year by doing nothing, like zero.
And it's guaranteed.
And guaranteed after 15 years, you actually stop paying anything, and you're still going to get roughly a 30% return per year. That's crazy.
And again, we're not saying, okay, I misspoke. This is not the guaranteed column. This is the guaranteed column. So guaranteed, hell or high water, you have 153,000 in. Not too bad, because you still are with the company. They've missed 2 dividends in like their history. So I feel very confident saying, if they miss the mark, you may end up with only $800,000. I'm sorry. It might only be $800,000. That's okay. I would guess that's okay for most. And if you just made one simple thing and said, instead of a $250,000 policy, maybe I want to get a $500,000 policy. What does that look like? Well, let's go to the numbers. So now that means that you would have been paying $8,477 for 15 years. So now you put 127,000 in. Guaranteed at the end of that period is 114,000. Guaranteed, like guaranteed to be in there. Now, let's say the company can continue doing what they've been doing. They're paying out their dividend. You're looking at having 155,000 in. You put 127,000 in. You are already in a position to recapture all of your expenses. And it's almost as if you had free insurance. It's not free insurance, but you're talking about having had $500,000 of coverage for your child. And in 15 years, you have more than what you pay into the policy available to you. Again, the goal is not to use it, but it is available. So let's go to that fun age of 65. And I know Leon's probably pulling out the calculator now to run the numbers. But remember, in one policy, you got to 900,000, and then you're increasing it by 100%. You're going from $250,000 in coverage to $500,000 in coverage. And at 65, in the first one, you had 900,000. In this policy, you're looking at having $1.8 million. $1.8 million. And let's see, minus 63,000, which was how much the first policy cost. You put about $64,000 more in. You're getting, for another 64,000, you're getting almost $950,000 for that additional 64,000. These are things that sometimes people don't take the moment to explain to us, and we just don't know. So Leon and I were looking at, different ways to start building wealth for kids. And we were like, let's talk to, our community about this, because you're now looking at an insurance policy that's not related to the market. So you don't have that volatility. You're getting dividends. It's a mutual company, so it's not paying any stockholders. And you're now creating a nest egg for your child of 1.8 million by the time they get to retirement. Again, giving them the ability to approach work differently, giving them the ability to give to the world differently, because they're not worried about, oh my gosh, what am I going to do in retirement? Which many people we know are having stress around that right now. They're thinking like, what is my retirement going to look like? Is there going to be Social Security? In this scenario, you're not worried. Your child's not worried. and you can do this for adults, but we're talking about kids for this series. And actually, this is even hypothetical. This is one that actually I recently did for a client of mine. So even though it is something that it may look different for each family, imagine this starting with a newborn baby. Then that gets really powerful. But let's go a little bit further. We talked about what happens if they get 85 and now they're ready to do something different. Supercharge. That's the word of today. Supercharge. They are now looking at an account that has $5 million in it. This is a life insurance policy that has $5 million in it. And if they were to you still not need this and die, you're talking about a payout to your family in the amount of about $6 million. And you put 127,000 in. That is hugely significant. And we just don't. I mean, I know people who spend $8,000 on vacation.
Right.
Easy. And this is $8,000, roughly $8,500 a year for 15 years, and then you're done. You don't put anything else into it. I mean, these are things
that that amount. So that break 8477 breaks down to about $700 a month in payments.
Yeah,
I know somebody who just recently got a car, bought a brand new Mercedes truck, and is paying roughly $1,500 a month for that car. And so, again, I mean, it's like priorities, like pay $1,500 a month for a car, which, again, if you can afford it, all good, or $700 a month for your kids, future, to where they can literally be millionaires by the time they're 65. And even sometimes even before that, depending on how much goes in the dividend.
And Leon, I'm gonna throw this out there for those people listening. They're like, okay, so what does that really mean? If a person maybe drove an older car or reduced that amount and put 1,300 into a policy for their kids, I'm not saying do it. I'm just simply saying just so we can play with the numbers. Instead of it being 1.8 million, if they probably moved this up from 700 a month to like 1,000 a month and had a $700 car note or something like that, this number probably would jump to just under $3 million. And I mean, it's just an estimate. I'm just guessing. But let's not even guess. Let's just look at the hard numbers. At $127,000 that you put into this, like Leon said, $700 a month or $8,500 roughly per year, just for 15 years. 15 years, you don't put anything in. If you're looking at a column and you're listening to this podcast, the column where the payments go, it's just zeros. It's just a bunch of zeros. At 65, just 65, when your children are looking to retire, they have a nest egg in there of 1.8 million. And if they were to pass away, your heirs would be receiving roughly $3 million, just a hair under $3 million. That's very significant. Even if you were looking at the smaller amount where you put in 63,000 over the course of all 15 years, and that comes to, what was it, like $4,239 a year. When your children hit age 65, they're sitting on just shy of $1 million inside of their life insurance policy. And if something were to happen to them, it's a payout of just under 1.5 million to your family. These are things that change generational wealth in a blink. But we need to start doing these these strategies. And this is just one of the strategies Leon and I are going to talk about over the next few months. But we thought this was a good one to start off with. So today we were talking about, a whole life policy and what it can actually do. There are multiple types of whole life policies. If you have questions, contact Leon or myself. You can go to Facebook and search Investing Education Academy. Find us. Our brand is pretty strong. It's easy to know if you're in the right place. If you want to go to our website, you can go to IEAnow.com and we can answer questions. And I mean, I'm just going to say this. Some of you all know Leon and I directly. Just call us. If you don't know us, you need to go to the site. But if you do know us, reach out. These are strategies you can put in place tomorrow. I mean, we can get you and your family started yesterday. And so there are variations to this. We can answer all the questions. But again, this is just part one in our series. We look forward to bringing you all part two. And we know we owe you 2 stock picks. So for everybody out there who wants those stock picks, you can go to well, actually, you can go to our group and log in. Once you log in, you'll be able to find our 2 stock picks for this podcast. Leon, anything before we go? I gotta run.
Yeah, just real quick is that we're always trying to find things that are uncorrelated to the market because the markets can be volatile. We just laid out something that after 15 years you stop paying, and you're. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, Brent, you said it's guaranteed return. I mean, nothing's actually guaranteed, but it's as close as guaranteed as you can get to being a millionaire for your kids. Starting like Brent said, this is for a 6-year-old. By 65, it's almost 99% guaranteed this kid will be a millionaire. So just something to think about. Like Brent said, reach out if you have any other questions. These are awesome. These blew my mind when he first showed me.
Yeah, everybody, thank you for being with us, and stick with us for the series.